Welcome, everybody, to another edition of The Truth About Fantasy Football, the Grueling Truth Network's weekly fantasy football show brought to you by Gridiron Mo, a new interactive football app that lets you choose what's going to happen in a live NFL game when you get to pick the offense or defense and what it's going to do and compete against the users around the country. That's gridironmo.com. I'm your host for the Fantasy Football Show, Matt Andruscavage, and I'd like to welcome in my co-hosts, Aaron Zepnick. How's it going today?
Doing well. Thanks for having me again.
Absolutely. And also Davis.
Hi. How are you folks doing?
We are good. Well, I know I'm good. I don't know if I can speak for Aaron. I think he's good.
I am well.
Excellent. So
I was coming on and talking with you gentlemen about fantasy football, and it's getting closer and closer. So the more close it gets, the more excited I get.
Same here. You know, there's a lot of research that goes in every year, and I always feel like I'm ready, but then what I always notice is, like, either the day of or the day before, I'm like, did I really have the right information, or am I going to totally blow this? But, yeah, it is what it is. I think after a while, you just go with the way you draft, and you get what you get.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time you like team on paper before the season starts. It's all a matter of waiver wire luck and injuries and stuff like that, I think, too. So,
yeah, I had a lot of injuries last year in both leagues. It's painful. You have to really do well with your waiver wire picks. So as we get into our first topic, Aaron had a really interesting idea. We're going to talk about the kind of what we think are the best 12 players and where we think they're going to go. Who are the first 12 players that are going to be taken off the board? So, Aaron, why don't you kind of talk about this a little bit and give us your 12?
Well, I went on PPR, as I said last week. That's the league I'm creating at my work, and I've never played one before, so I'm putting a little bit more research into the PPR and where the guys are valued. I think Gurley is the consensus overall number one pick, and most of the things I've read, I would take Gurley if I was sitting at number one. And as I give these to you, assume that the guy that I took before is gone, and I'll just go through the 12 that I have. Number two, I would take Antonio Brown if Gurley's gone. Antonio Brown, obvious 136 catches last year, I think he had, and unbelievable PPR value. If I'm sitting at number three, I'm taking David Johnson from the Cardinals. I think David Johnson's going to have a big year. If I'm sitting at four, I'm actually taking DeAndre Hopkins, another guy with big catches and big play potential. Again, you know, he's the number one receiver, and he didn't have a very good quarterback throwing to him last year. So I think if Brock Osweiler can stay upright and stay healthy, I think he'll have as good, if not better, numbers as he had last year. And now after four, it gets kind of interesting for me. I actually went on a little bit of a receiver run here. I have Julio Jones at 5. I have Dez Bryant at 6. Then I went back to Devontae Freeman at 7. And then I went Adrian Peterson at 8, just because of the fact that he has that potential to have a lot of stats, a lot of numbers, and a lot of touchdowns. At 9, I went A.J. Green. At 10, I went Gronk. At 11, I went Cam Newton. And at 12, I went Aaron Rodgers.
That's relatively close to what I've got. I've got Gurley and Brown right away at 1 and 2. I think that's, I'm thinking PPR league as well. I don't play in anything but PPR leagues. Gurley is, with Le'Veon Bell's suspension, Gurley is definitely the favorite. And then Antonio Brown's a no-brainer, especially when you get return yards on top of that. He's just a surefire 20 points every game at wide receiver. At number 3, I got Jamal Charles at number 3. I think he's going to be just as healthy. He catches balls out of the backfield. He's more of a sure thing to me just because of the quarterback situation. I like David Johnson a lot. I'm just not this is just a personal thing for me. I don't disagree with the ratings that people have about David Johnson, because I do think he likely will have that big year. I just don't know that I am that comfortable with a guy that could get us the sophomore. I'm scared of the sophomore slump. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm uneasy about it. I'm more comfortable with like Julio Jones, Le'Veon Bell, or Jamal Charles there. But that's just kind of my own personal problem. I don't know that a lot of other people are going to feel that way, but that's kind of where I'm at with him. And then then I've got Rob Gronkowski. I think Gronk is going to go very early in a lot of drafts, just because I think Garoppolo is going to really be looking for him. And when Brady comes back, I think if he's healthy, I think he's going to lead the league in touchdowns again. I think he's going to be right back. I think he could get 20 touchdowns.
Even with a viable number 2 at tight end?
What's that?
Even with a viable number 2 in tight end like New England has now?
Yeah, I do. I think Bennett's going to be really good, but I still think Gronk is going to be – I think there's going to be attention given to Bennett. I don't think Bennett's just going to be standing all alone in the end zone. I think Bennett's going to bring pressure off, and Gronk is still the favorite guy. I still think he's going to get a lot of touchdowns this year. I'm very comfortable taking Gronk very high. I like Julio Jones also at 5. I've still got Le'Veon Bell at number 6. I do think that in a lot of drafts he will fall, but I'm also thinking about the draft that I'm in. I think he's probably going to still go pretty high. I've got David Johnson at 7, Aaron Rodgers at 8, Cam Newton at 9, Adrian Peterson at 10, Odell Beckham at 11, and Des Bryant at 12. But I also know that it's possible that DeAndre Hopkins could be in that mix as well.
Yeah,
I probably should have done it more the way you did it.
Because of injury and the suspension. If they were
that's understandable.
They'd be top 5 for sure.
And I probably should have done this more along the lines of the way you had said it, where what would you do at the 3rd pick? I guess I was also just thinking, what do I think in an average draft? How do I think the top 12 are going to go? I do think there's going to be a very good possibility that 2 or 3 quarterbacks are taken in the 1st round. I've just seen it happen sometimes when I don't think it's going to happen. Mm-hmm. So I still think it's very possible, but I don't know. But I think these are still some of the top players, but I would agree that DeAndre Hopkins probably should have made my list, so I'll agree that my list is slightly flawed on that one. So you're up on it. I don't know if I call it
flawed, but again, I think Ezekiel Elliott will also get picked a lot in a lot of first rounds. But let's hear Oz's before we steal the show here.
Yeah, okay. I approached it the same way Matt did. But I also so what I did was I sort of imagined the domino effect in the draft, okay? For this reason, for the fact that there seems to be this talent gap between, top 5, top 8 running backs and everybody else, I think that in a lot of 12-team leagues especially, you're going to see a domino effect. So basically what I figured was this. I mean, I just picked who I think are going to be the top 12 and went from there, but I did not include any quarterbacks because I really don't think that quarterbacks are going to go in your average 12-team draft in the 1st round. If you're smart, they won't, because as we've been talking about, there's not much gap there, right, between the top 10 quarterbacks. There is some noticeable difference, but it's not going to make or break you like the difference between the number 1 and the number 10 running backs, for example. So that was my thinking when compiling this top 12 list. I also did it in Matt's way, so that it's not who I would pick, because you all know I have Blake Bortles at number 1. But it's rather the way that I see the draft going down. So here is my imaginary 1st round of a 12-team draft. Number one is Todd Gurley, and I want to digress for just a minute or two here because yesterday I got to brag about this to somebody. I haven't talked to anybody about this yet. Yesterday I was able to attend the Rams Open practice, which is taking place 2 miles from my home. Right.
Nice.
Super convenient. I was able to walk there, walk back. It was awesome. And let me tell you, okay, second play from scrimmage when they started doing, offense versus defense, because we saw a lot of special team stuff, a lot of quarterback stuff. Second play, all right, Gurley gets the handoff, comes around left because they create that opening for him out left, and then he transports 20 yards down the field. It was just instant. It was amazing. I mean, this guy is number one. Seriously, after just seeing this one practice, wow, this guy is a machine. All right, so I've definitely got Gurley at number one. Number two, I have Antonio Brown. I think we're all in agreement here. Let's see. Number three, I have David Johnson. I think he's going to get a lot of hype. I think he's going to move up the draft boards pretty quickly. Now at number four, and I'm wondering why neither of you guys had him, Adrian Peterson. You don't think he's going to go high this year?
I had him a little bit lower, and I thought Aaron had him at like 8.
I had him at 8 because of the fact he doesn't catch a lot of balls.
Yeah.
And he's over 30 now.
Again, I would not. He's not my number 4. But again, I'm just figuring with the domino effect sort of kicking in that folks are going to panic. I think he's going to go somewhat high. At 5 and 6, I put Green and Dez Bryant. Again, I think Dez has a lot of fans out there, so I think that's going to bump him on a lot of draft days. And I think if you're smart, you'll go with A.J. Green at very early because he's going to get a lot of work there in Cincinnati, a lot. So I've got Green and Bryant at 5 and 6. I put Hopkins at 7. Again, reckoning that folks are going to start taking wide receivers. I put Le'Veon Bell at 8. I think a lot of people are going to roll the dice with him, and I think that a lot of Steelers fans are out there. So I think he's going to go in the first round as well. I got Beckham at 9, like we discussed last week. I mean, Aaron and I are in agreement about this. I don't think Beckham is a top 10 fantasy player, but I think a lot of people still think he is. At number 10, who did I have? Okay, at 10, I put Gronk. Gronk is going to go somewhere in the first round. I don't know where. So I put him at number 10. 11, I have Julio Jones, and at 12, I have your guy, Aaron, Devonta Freeman. I think he'll sneak in there.
I think we had a lot of similar guys, just a little bit mixed up there.
Yeah.
I had Peterson at 8. I had Freeman at 7. I had Julio Jones ahead of Dez and A.J. Green. I just think that
I do too.
I trust Matt Ryan a little bit more than I trust Andy Dalton and Tony Romo. And that's my only reason. And I think Atlanta has a little bit more proven weapons around Julio than Cincinnati does with A.J. Green. He's their only viable weapon at wide receiver, in my opinion. I know they lost Sanu and Marvin Jones, and Eifert's banged up. Jeremy Hill had kind of not a down year, but there was a lot higher expectations for him. And Dallas, I just don't trust Dallas ever. I stay away from Dallas Cowboys almost as bad as I stay away from Cleveland Browns, honestly.
But you like Ezekiel Elliott this year.
I'm sorry?
You like Ezekiel Elliott this year, though.
I think he's a second-round pick, in my opinion. I don't think I'd spend a first-round pick on him. I think if Ezekiel Elliott, the only thing I like about him is the fact that he played in for Urban Meyer. I think he'll be big stage ready. And with that said, I didn't have him in my top 5 running backs. I don't have him in the first round on my board. And I think some people will. I've heard, some people picking him as early as 6, and I just think that's a reach.
That's a rookie in the first round? I just don't want to do that. I just don't want to take a rookie in the first round. I don't care who it is. No,
I
don't think that's a good pick.
I want to digress here for a second as well. Jamal Charles, you said something, Matt, that struck a chord with me. You trust his quarterback situation. You like his quarterback situation more than David Johnson's. Carson Palmer had a pretty darn good year last year, and I trust Carson Palmer.
That's not what I wasn't saying. I understand how you would think it the way you're saying it. I'm not saying that Alex Smith is at all better than Carson Palmer. Carson Palmer had a much better year than Alex Smith. Where I'm at with that is the way the offense is set up. It's set up to be a very conservative passing game. It's almost all centered around Jamal Charles. He gets so many touches. He's involved in so many passing plays. When he's healthy, he gets the ball so much. I don't know that David Johnson's going to be that way because they have so many receivers, and they also have a few running backs. I think he's going to get the majority of the carries, but I don't think he's going to get 60 passes. He could, but I think there's so many receivers there, and Palmer likes to go deep. And plus, I don't know that I trust Palmer staying healthy this year as much as I might trust Alex Smith. He doesn't seem to get banged up as much as Palmer does. But so that's all I mean by that. Palmer's a better quarterback. That was in no way was I suggesting.
Look what you're saying. I agree with all of that. I think.
But what about the fact that Arizona is going to be playing with a lead much more frequently than Kansas City? At least I.
Now that's possible too. That is possible that he could be getting the bulk of the carries if he's that guy. That certainly could play into it. All I'm saying is I already know Jamal Charles is that guy. I already know that he's good for 300 touches, just running the ball and all the opportunities he's going to have out of the backfield. I mean, you watched Kansas City's conservative pass offense. I mean, it is dump the ball off to Kelsey, dump the ball off to Jamal Charles. It's not. They're not even looking at Macklin. It's Charles. He's the whole offense.
This is true.
Whereas I don't see that in Arizona. You got Michael Floyd, you've got Fitzgerald, you've got J.J. Nelson, you've got John Brown. Chris Johnson still is going to be in the mix at running back. There's just so many different things. I don't see Carson Palmer dumping the ball off like the way Alex Smith does. Carson Palmer's looking 20 yards downfield. That's just what he does.
True.
He's a deep ball thrower, but that's where I'm coming from on that.
Well, and back to the whole, Jamal Charles is a top 3 pick if he's healthy. I agree with you there. I trust David Johnson's health more than I trust Jamal Charles at this point too.
And that's fair too, because Charles has shown that he can't necessarily be relied on.
See, that's the thing. I worry about this guy can tote the rock 300 times. That's what I worry about, especially if he's already done it 3 times, because we've seen this time and time again. Hell, in Kansas City, we saw this with Priest Holmes. I mean, it happens. If you run the dude, especially into the line repeatedly for seasons, eventually he's going to surprise and turn in a 2.4 yards per carry season. It's
Jamal Lewis.
But there you go. You just wonder about how much gas is in some of these guys' tanks after a while. This is another thing that kind of scares me away from Jamal Charles.
Real quick, too, guys, on the subject of Oz, you said the Rams practice facility is 2 miles from your house. I am fortunate enough to have Lambeau Field in the shadows of my backyard. I'm literally 7 blocks away. We went to family night. They do family night every year. It was this past Sunday, and I got to tell you, there's been this huge ordeal in Green Bay about Eddie Lacy and the weight problem from last year. And there was pictures being posted, and there was all this stuff with slimming down. I was there, and I was in the 12th row, so I wasn't in the nosebleeds. He was on the sideline, literally probably 25 feet from me, and I don't think he looked slimmer at all. He had his pads and jersey off.
I've heard this.
I'm sorry?
I've heard this. Someone said this on Twitter that they saw him.
Yeah, they've shown a couple of pictures.
Just what you're saying.
A couple of pictures.
He does not look slim. He looks like he still has a beer gut. He looks like he's out of shape. He only took a few reps, and then he was standing on the sideline in his white Under Armour shirt. And I'm no skinny guy, but he looked large to me. And I mean, he's thick anyway, but he doesn't look slim down. He doesn't look slim and trim like a 220, 230 like people are saying. He looks 255.
Wow, man,
to me.
That's big for him. That's like Ironhead Hayward.
Yeah, he's a big man, and he does not look like he's trimmed down at all, like people are saying. And I got to tell you, I'm a little bit skeptical on taking him now. I was thinking of maybe taking him on the way back in the second round, but I think I would probably reach out for a Matt Forte or somebody like that instead. So as a Packer fan, that worries me, because I think that was part of his problem last year was, the conditioning and the weight, and his production was not near what they expected it to be, and a lot of fantasy owners probably were upset when they took Lacey in the first round.
Well, Lacey was actually something that I wanted to bring up. I was thinking about it earlier this week, and I wanted to know where you thought he might fall, because I also would not take him in the first round, even if he was trimmer, just because Packers are so pass heavy. I would be more comfortable taking him. I would try to. For me, I'd be looking for him. He could fall to the end of the second round, early third round.
I agree. That's right about where I see him going. I thought about reaching on him in the second round just in case he was coming back and he was slim and trim and, came back and did what people expected him to do last year. Yeah. And I don't see it.
Well, I don't like the out of shape assessment. I wouldn't mind if he was 250 and looked good, because then you could just use him as a goal line back, right? But I don't like that you're telling me he's out of shape. I think I'll leave the drafting of Lacey to you all. I think I'll just take a pass altogether if I can. I like the respect for Matt Forte.
It's hard to say.
Yeah, I'd have to see the actual particulars of the board, but geez, I mean, with this sort of eye test failure, I don't think I'd take a chance at all.
And I'm not trying to scare you guys out of drafting him. If he has a great year, I don't want you to hold that against me. But I'm a Packer fan, through and through, die hard, born and raised. As a Packer fan, I'm concerned that he looks just like he did last year. And
right. I mean, that Arizona run always stands out to me.
Yeah.
Where he just turned around and said, "Please, somebody tackle me. I can't go anymore."
Yeah. And Starks wasn't there. I didn't see him at all. So I'm not sure if he's banged up or if he had maybe permission to not be there because of family thing or what. I have no idea. But if he's healthy, which I'm assuming he is because I haven't heard anything, I think he's going to get his 6 to 10 touches a game, and McCarthy's a guy that'll split up the carries anyway. I mean, he always has. Yeah,
no doubt. He's just you can get him off of running the ball very quickly. That's just his nature. It's just the way that he likes to call an offense. He doesn't really stick with the run too much. But I would agree. I think Starks will probably get somewhere between 6 and 10 touches. I think Starks is, depending on the matchup, you wouldn't draft Starks high at all, but he's not a bad later round running back. I know we were talking about another topic with the drop offs. Like where do you say? I don't remember how exactly you phrased that, Aaron, when you were talking about that with running backs, wide receivers, tight ends. Why don't you kick that one off and phrase that how you meant it?
So, if you're sitting there in the draft and you need a running back, who do you turn to after, say, the the guys that we just mentioned in the first round or two, who's left to draft? Like, who do you feel the safest pick would be? And is there a bigger drop-off between the, say, top 10 to 15 running backs or the top 10 to 15 receivers? Where do you feel more comfortable getting a third, fourth, fifth, sixth round starter or diamond in the rough at receiver? Or is there a running back out there like a guy that we haven't mentioned? There's that next tier of running backs, I think, like LaShawn McCoy, Matt Forte. But after that, I mean, it's slim pickings. Maybe an Arian Foster. You hope he finds the old Arian, with the new scenery in Miami. A guy that I will stay away from just because he's burned me before. I'm kind of like that when it comes to picking. Jamal Lewis is a guy that he had the one great season where he had like the 278 yards rushing in one game or whatever.
Yeah, that's right.
But I picked him the next year, and he absolutely was a dud. So the guy that is on that list for me is Lamar Miller. I'll never touch him again.
He had a pretty good year last year. Lamar Miller was one of those guys that I wasn't super high on, but I would have been, if I could have had him last year, I would not have been unhappy. But
I had him the year before, and he did nothing for me.
Sure.
But so who do you guys think is, or who do you think you can get in the third or fourth round that is a quality running back that, that we're not talking about? I mean, is there a guy? Is there a Thomas Rawls, a Mark Ingram, or probably right in there with the next tier of running backs? But I don't know. What do you guys think as far as the depth at running back alone?
I got a pretty good opinion on this, but Oz, why don't you go first?
Sure. I mean, compared to wide receivers, it's terrible. There's the easy answer. I mean, we already talked about wide receivers. Okay, we both mentioned 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys in common. We didn't even mention Amari Cooper. We didn't mention anybody in Seattle. Okay, I'm sure we could come up with a top 15 or maybe even top 20 list of wide receivers, which would be dotted with all-stars. Okay, so I don't think that's any question at all. Running backs, yeah, I like Thomas Rawls. Coming off the ankle injury, that's a little bit shaky, but we'll wait on the reports from the off season. Like I said last week, it's not exactly a safe pick, but I have high hopes for Latavius Murray there in Oakland. I think he could do some damage there, and he could even be your second running back at that point, because I think he'll probably still be around in the third round. I think Oakland is going to be overlooked by a lot of folks this year, and I think it's kind of a mistake. But I definitely think there's a massive drop-off there at running back. I mean, I could not whip off even a list of the top 15 running backs as quickly as you could whip off a list of 20 or 25 wide receivers. Absolutely. I think you guys, as we have more and more of these podcasts, are making me more and more paranoid about getting to the running backs early because the drop-off, I think, is pretty steep after a while. So, yeah, I think wide receivers, no fear. I think you should be armed with a list of, 40 wide receivers and that you like, and just be ready to grab those guys. Running back, I guess early and often, huh?
Oh, yeah. I don't think there's any question on that. The guys that I would say, I think there's going to be guys around in the third, fourth round that are going to be qualities. One of them is going to be Carlos Hyde from the 49ers. He's healthy. I think it's possible that they're saying that he is an ideal back for Chip Kelly's system, where DeMarco Murray definitely was not. I would not be afraid to draft him in the third or fourth round. Another guy I would look at, especially in a PPR league, Danny Woodhead out of San Diego. He gets a lot of catches.
Yeah, but he drove me
and he scores. He scores from in goal line situations.
He scores every third week.
Well, the thing is, if you didn't play if you were playing in a non-PPR league, you don't want him. But if you're in a PPR league, he's really valuable.
Yeah, you're right.
Another guy that I would be comfortable taking in the third or fourth round, who I think is going to be there because the perception is going to be that they're not going to be as good this year, is C.J. Anderson out of Denver.
Yeah.
Again, I wouldn't draft him high because I think it's also possible, like we talked about, that he could be seeing 8- and 9-man fronts. But in the fourth round, I think he's a viable option because he's a starting running back with experience. So there's 2 or 3 guys off the top of my head. Now, I'm in total agreement that the running back position is massive drop-off. If you can get 2 or 3 quality running backs early, like you were saying with wide receivers, we haven't even talked about Allen Robinson, who led the league in touchdowns last year.
Yeah, there you
14. Go. Jordy Nelson's coming back. Who's probably going to have another great year. Randall Cobb, people are going to be down on Randall Cobb. You correct me if I'm wrong, Aaron, but you watched Randall Cobb last year without Jordy Nelson. It was kind of like watching Percy Harvin without Sidney Rice. And when he was in Minnesota, he's just not that guy. But when he's got Jordy Nelson, Randall Cobb is really good, and I think it's possible that he's going to be falling a little bit just because of the perception of what everyone saw last year. So I think receivers, you can get a lot in the later rounds. Go ahead.
I really like you, but please don't ever compare my Packer receivers to Minnesota.
There we go, yeah.
I think you knew what I was trying to say.
Other receivers we haven't even talked about are Brandon Marshall, Alshon Jeffrey, Dem Thomas, Emmanuel Sanders, Larry Fitzgerald. We did touch on him a bit when we were talking about Carson Palmer, but Jordan Matthews, I think, is going to be a good player. There's a lot of receivers, and there's only so many guys that can get picked in the first 48, 60 picks. So the top 5 rounds, it all depends. And this is what I was talking about last week when we were talking about where you are in the draft. So, I'm at 10 this year in my 12-team league, and I'm at 6 in my 10-team league. Well, when I'm at 6 in the middle, kind of stinks, but I can let the draft come to me more and see what the run is kind of on each side.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I'm waiting for a quarterback, and I don't even care that everybody knows that because I'm still going to end up with, a Matthew Stafford or a Phillip Rivers or a Carson Palmer, whoever I have to take, and there's only so many that can go. There's 24 quarterbacks I feel comfortable with rolling with, as long as receivers and my running backs are stacked. So my biggest decision-making thing is always okay, do I want to just stack up my starting receivers and running backs, or do I want to have a mediocre second running back or second receiver and go after a top stud tight end right now? And it all depends on who you're drafting with. You got to kind of know what their tendency is.
Absolutely. What do you guys think of, another running back that popped in my mind that I think people are going to be a little down on this year was, I forget Carolina's running back.
Jonathan Stewart.
Jonathan Stewart, that's it. I was going with Deshaun Foster, but I think I was 10 years off. So, Jonathan Stewart. He's pretty good. He had a pretty good year last year, but he's another guy that you could probably get in third or fourth round.
That's another guy I tend to stay away from. For some reason, I don't know, he's just not one of my guys, I guess, that I pick. And I like Carlos Hyde. I like Mark Ingram. He was my best player as far as consistency last year. But I have a fear he'll go in the second round after I pick early in the second. But, there's something to be said about having a Julio and a Dez combination or a Julio and a A.J. Green. If that would happen in my league, I'd be compelled to probably take 2 stud receivers, and then I'd have to roll with Danny Woodhead and, whoever else.
Yeah, but you're going to be at number 10. Gronk could well be available. Would you take Gronk with your first-round pick?
I don't know. And part of that is because of 2 reasons. One, Brady being out 4 games.
Yeah.
What if, teams are like, well, we're going to double Gronk the entire game. You're going to have to beat us with Jimmy Garoppolo's arm thrown to somebody else or run the ball.
Mm-hmm.
That could be, a negative. And then there's also the Martellus Bennett factor. How much is he going to take away? Is he going to be like the Aaron Hernandez before, imprisonment? Or is he going to be just Gronk and get his? You know what I mean? So I like enough other tight ends that I think I'd pass on that.
I'm kind of in the same boat. I mean, I would be happy to have Gronk, but I feel like, well, you guys know, if I can get 2 or 3 quality running backs right away, I'm going for it just because of the drop-off. And I feel like there's so many receivers, and we named off a pile of tight ends. Another guy, Jordan Reed. Between Jordan Reed, Greg Olsen, and Travis Kelce, we're looking at 4 really, really good tight ends, and there's even other guys that you could get.
But okay.
So I don't really feel like I need Gronk.
Let's be specific, okay? Aaron is picking number 6 in a 12-team draft, okay? You're probably going to get your 3rd or 4th favorite running back. You'll have a shot at that, and maybe your 3rd or 4th favorite receiver. Who are you going to take?
Well, again, that's why I went with who I would pick.
Right.
And if I'm sitting at 6 and I can get, a David Johnson or a Devontae Freeman even, I'm probably in a PPR league, I'm probably going to take one of them too. If both of them are gone, it's Antonio Brown, Julio Jones, DeAndre Hopkins. Them are my next 3.
Okay.
And I guess it would all depend on what happens in the preseason, obviously, barring any injuries or anything very weird that would happen. I know that I'm a huge Julio Jones fan, and I think he has the potential to be the number 1 receiver now with Calvin Johnson gone. And Antonio Brown, with Martavius Bryant being out for the year, I think Antonio Brown's going to get a lot more attention. Marcus Wheaton's a decent receiver, but I don't think he's as talented as Martavius Bryant. So I think it's going to get tougher for Antonio Brown. And here's the other thing with Antonio Brown, he is the talent at number 2. Like, I think we all agreed on that. Mm-hmm. One thing that scares me about Antonio Brown is Ben Roethlisberger is injury prone, and Antonio Brown also returns punts. There's that many more chances for him to get injured, and with as much as wear and tear as he's had as a receiver even, it scares me that when is his time going to come up to get an injury?
Yeah. Yeah,
and
it's possible.
The division that he plays in with the Cincinnati thing in the playoffs, you don't think teams are going to be gunning for him? I just not that he deserves it or anything. I'm just saying I think with Baltimore, Cincinnati, the division they play in, I think it's physical. There's always that chance anybody could get hurt, but when you touch the ball that many more times in a game, the odds increase. So that kind of scares me.
Mm-hmm. I wonder too about Ladarius Green. I wonder how many touchdowns he's going to steal. Here's a guy who's been wanting to break out of San Diego for 4 or 5 years, and now he gets a chance to start in Pittsburgh. I think he might be thieving a few touchdowns from the receivers this year in Pittsburgh.
Well, the whole team takes touchdowns. Martavis Bryant got his share of touchdowns, as did their tight end who just retired, which for some reason it's not coming to my mind. But Heath Miller, yep. And that didn't stop Antonio Brown. To me, it's Ladarius Green being there is what's going to take the pressure off of Antonio Brown. Because if they didn't have him, all of a sudden now you're just looking at Marcus Wheaton and then Sammy Coates. I would divert all my attention to Brown. But with Ladarius Green there, and I do think Sammy Coates is going to be pretty good this year, I would take him before Wheaton. But I still think Brown's going to be really good, but I would agree that at some point 135 catches may not happen. he could get injured, and obviously with Roethlisberger gets hurt as well. So there's always a fear there. But given a 16-game season with with him being healthy, I think Ladarius Green only helps Antonio Brown. I don't think he's going to take that many. I wouldn't let Antonio Brown fall because of Ladarius Green.
Oh no.
Right, and if I'm picking number 2 and Todd Gurley goes 1, I'm picking Antonio Brown number 2.
Yeah.
And, I mean, you have the same chances, maybe a little bit more chance that he gets hurt or his production goes down, but if DeAndre Hopkins can put up the numbers he did with whoever Houston's quarterback was last year, Case Keenum maybe?
all 4 of them.
Yeah.
But again, but okay, now rethinking this, putting Antonio Brown at number 2 when the running back is gone at number 1, and in a snake draft, you're not going to get to pick again until, 23?
Yeah,
so
but then
do you
get
really
2
want
picks pretty quick.
Yeah, do you really want to pass on a running back? I mean, it's almost like number 2 has to be.
I had a feeling this might come up because when you said Antonio Brown, I was like, well, we just got done talking about how many running backs there are. We got to take running backs. For me, I would be all right also taking Antonio Brown number 2 because my strategy would then be running back, second or third round. I would be all right with that. I think there would be enough there, and plus I'd be getting an absolute stud with Antonio Brown.
Absolutely, and that's my thought with Julio Jones too. The only way I draft Julio is if I'm not, it's. I would take Julio Jones going into the season healthy over Charles or Bell because of the suspension and the injury question. And those are the only other 2 running backs I think are worthy of a top 10 pick. I think it's Gurley, David Johnson, Freeman, Bell and Charles if nothing else is going on, and Adrian Peterson. Really those 6. And I think I would take, in a PPR, I'd take Julio Jones because he has those games where he puts up 11 catches for 190 yards and 2 touchdowns or whatever. But if I do draft a Julio Jones or an A.J. Green, them are the 2 guys that I would decide on. And if I have to do that, or if I do that, I would have to go running back in the second and third, like Matt's saying. And then it's really 4th round, it would come up to who's the best value there for me.
Yes, best
Travis Kelce, Greg Olsen, or do I go for my second receiver now? Is a guy like Jordy Nelson or Randall Cobb out there, or a guy like a Jordan Matthews, I think would be a great number 2. There's a bunch of other receivers.
Mike Evans, there's Golden Tate.
I don't think I want to draft the number 2. I don't think I want the number 2. I don't think
it's not the greatest spot.
No,
it's not the greatest spot, but there are things that you can do, because I think LaShawn McCoy would be available for one of the second or third round pick. I think
at number 23,
Mark Ingram could be there, and I would really be comfortable taking him. He's real good.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Latavius Murray, I think, might be there. There's a number of guys I think that'll be there at that spot, but that's why you got to go. I still think it would be important to go running back. Get your running backs out of the way, and then focus on receiver and tight end. You can get your quarterback in the 6th or 7th round, no problem. So I don't have a problem.
And like I said, Oz, there's only 36 picks that can go in the top 3 rounds. There's more than 35 great players right now.
Sure.
I think the ones we named over 20 players when we were going through just our 3 12-man list. We had 3 or 4 that each guy kind of had different. But then you add on the guys that we mentioned after, like the Allen Robinson, Amari Cooper, Mark Ingram, LaShawn McCoy. All these guys are going to go. So if you put 3 different top 36 lists together, you're going to end up with the same or roughly the same 36 guys.
Yeah.
So you have to conclude, if you go receiver in the first round, you could take the bottom 2 running backs or the bottom running back in each round and that person's going to make it back to you. Or somebody better if they fall.
Right. And that's the other thing. I think there's going to be guys that fall because every league seems to have it. Someone's going to go with there's going to be a couple guys that take quarterback early, especially with Cam Newton. He's going to go, he's probably going to go top 10.
There'll be four quarterbacks drafted in the first 2 rounds easily.
Oh, yeah.
Wow, really? Really?
No question. Andrew Luck.
Cam Newton, Andrew Luck, Aaron Rodgers, and Drew Brees will go in the first 2 rounds in my draft.
Yes.
Drew Brees. Wow.
Same here. That's how it'll be in mine as well. Well, mine's kind of skewed though because we're a 2-quarterback league, but that's different. But I still think in most PPR leagues, I think those 4 quarterbacks will go in the first 2 rounds. So you just kind of add it up, and you're going to have guys that are going to follow you. There's going to be a couple of running backs available. If you're stuck early, picking early, I don't think I think getting a Julio Jones or an Antonio Brown with the 2nd or 3rd pick, and then just focus on your running backs, get your quarterbacks later, you're going to have all kinds of good receivers and tight ends available in the 4th and 5th round, and you can get your quarterback later. I think it's just going to work out.
I think I'm ready to make
your running backs.
I think I'm ready to make a Rams trade for that number 1 overall pick. I'll give you like 4 picks for your number 1. I just want Gurley. I would trade you not to think about it. I just want not to think about it. Nah, you can't really do it, right? Because then what the hell am I going to do?
How far are you into getting this Grueling Truth League going, Oz?
Well,
oh, come on.
Mike brought it up yesterday, so I'm going to talk to him tomorrow and see if he's serious. Never really know with that guy.
All you have to do is send me a list of everybody that works at Grueling Truth, and then I'll get it started. But this week, I've just been busy. I went to the Rams camp a couple of times, so, I have not been looking at fantasy. I've been looking at real football. I haven't been looking at fantasy football this week. But it'll get going. I mean, why not? We get guys. You guys are going to play, so, hey, we got 3 already. There you go. But we'll
absolutely. So where do you draft? How many tight ends do you think will go in those top 3 rounds? I think 3.
How many what?
Tight ends.
How many tight ends?
The top 36 picks. So we said 4 quarterbacks will go in the top 2 rounds. I don't know if any will go in the 3rd round after those top 4. I think people kind of have the same philosophy that we have, Matt, the weight on it.
Yeah.
I think tight ends are going to go more in the 4th or 5th round. Yeah,
that's what I feel like too.
Gronk will go maybe. I would say at the well. I mean, this is just what I've noticed over the years, and what I would say 2. Gronk, and then maybe a guy like Jordan Reed or Greg Olsen, maybe Travis Kelce. One of those 3 guys would go, and I think that all of a sudden, what I've always seen in the drafts is all of a sudden there'll be just this big tight end run. Everyone will start taking tight ends, and everybody panics. I better get my tight end now before he's gone. So it'll be like 8 tight ends. I love it when people do that, because
then what I do is I draft a 3rd receiver or a 3rd running back, and I'm like, I'll roll with Richard Rodgers or Jordan Cameron or Gary Barnidge. I'm fine with that.
Oh, Gary Barnidge would be a really great value pick, but I don't know that he's going to go under the radar this year. He's real good. I had him last year. He's a good tight end.
Yeah, I like his consistency. He puts up a decent amount of points every week. I think that there will be 4 tight ends in the first 3 rounds as well.
Wow. Could be. Could be. I would lean less, but it's tough.
Draft anyway. I think it'll be Gronk in the late 1st, early 2nd, probably late 1st. Then I think it'll be Travis Kelce will go late 2nd, early 3rd, and then later in the 3rd, or maybe right after Kelce gets picked, Olsen will go. And then I think Jordan Reed will also get picked in the maybe not in the 3rd round. Somebody will maybe wait till the 4th and pick him, but I think that's 8 of the 36, 7 for sure of the 36 picks. Then you put in the top 6, 7 running backs at least that we mentioned. Mm-hmm. I would say there's more about 10 to 12 that we mentioned. We have Gurley, David Johnson, Devontae Freeman,
Peterson.
Adrian Peterson, Charles Bell, and then you have McCoy, Ingram,
Okay.
Lacey maybe,
Yeah.
Rawls,
Murray, Miller.
Yeah, Rawls. Rawls is in there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Murray, Miller, maybe a Hyde, maybe a Arian Foster, maybe a Matt Forte. So there you go. That's a good 13, 14. So we're up to over 21 without even naming receivers.
Yeah, and there's
Right.
more than 13. There's more than 13.
Right. So you have to conclude that out of all of those guys, so who are the running backs I just named that are at the bottom of the list there? Well, Lamar Miller would be at the bottom of my list. But
Yeah, Lacey, Miller, Murray,
Yeah.
Hyde, and then, maybe a C.J. Anderson. Forte would be down
yeah,
there.
C.J. Anderson, Forte.
Yeah.
I'll tell you right now, if I get Julio Jones in the first round and I come back and I say I get a Mark Ingram, and then in the next round I get a Matt Forte or a Rawls or a Hyde, I'm fine with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but you're going to be drafting at 10, which means you're also going to be drafting at 15, which means you won't need to spend 15 on Ingram, probably, right?
Right.
So I'm drafting at 10. I probably go running back. Then again, I wait to see what falls.
AJ Green, and on the way back, I'll grab either a LaShawn McCoy or the best available running back.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, getting a receiver as your first round pick, if you can get a stud, it's not a bad strategy. But then you got to go running back.
Yep, and that's what I'm thinking I'm doing. And then hoping that a guy like Amari Cooper or, any receiver we've named in that top 20, 25 falls to me in the fourth round.
In the fourth round, yeah. Yeah.
Because that fourth round is actually only going to be 4 picks later, again, because in the even rounds I picked, third?
Yeah.
So in the top 39, 40 picks, in the top 40 picks, I'm going to have 4 of those guys. If I go Julio Jones, I'm fine with taking 2 running backs and then another receiver or a tight end if he falls.
Right. Yeah.
And if the right guy's not there, I wait on the tight end and I take a Gary Barnidge in the 5th or 6th round, or a Jared Cook. I think I might splash on because he's a Packer now, and he played for Oz's Rams.
Yeah, well, you enjoy him.
You were in my
league. He led the league and dropped passes last year. you have,
Jared
you have
Cook,
fun with Jared
I would
Cook.
stay away from him.
Yeah. No.
Here's the thing, though.
He's injury prone, and he drops passes.
Here's the thing, though. He's never had a quarterback.
I agree with you there.
Yeah.
He played for the Rams
talent.
with Bradford and Nick Foles and their backups. Aaron Rodgers runs the show here. If he throws to you and you drop the ball, you're probably ask Devontae Adams. I mean, he had to throw to Devontae Adams last year because Jordy was hurt. But if Jordy's healthy and Randall's healthy, he doesn't go back to Devontae Adams very often.
Right.
If that's the case. So I think that Jared Cook will have the best year he's had. If he doesn't,
he might.
It'll be the end of his career.
Yeah, I don't think he's. This is kind of they're kind of hoping he's going to be the Jermichael Finley that when he was good. I think he's got talent. There's no question. I've watched it, as a division rival. The Rams. I've gotten to watch the Rams quite a lot. I like Jared Cook. I just I don't know how severe his injury is, but I've heard this is just his MO. And he drops a lot of balls. I just don't know that he's going to be what everyone's hoping for in Green Bay. He might be, but as for fantasy, I would definitely not take a flyer on him unless it was really late. I just don't know.
It's
but I think the
to
hype
draft
is
the
there.
tight end and it's round 10.
I just let someone else grab him. I think there's going to be a lot of hype there. I just let someone else take him. But I think as far as tight ends go, Gronk's definitely going to go the earliest. I think no matter what, once a tight end, once it's Kelsey, Olsen, or Reed, once one of those guys gets drafted, whether it's at the end of the second or early in the third, if Kelsey goes and then Olsen goes, you're going to see a tight end run. You're going to see like 5 guys go in a row.
Yeah.
Because everyone's going to want to get their start tight end.
Which is kind of nuts because 5 through 15 can't be that different at tight end. You can't be gaining that many points by getting the 6th best tight end as opposed to the 9th best. You just can't.
Some of those guys, like Jordan Reed, he might get 95 balls. Or, maybe not 95. He might get 75, 80. I don't know that once you get past Olsen, Barnage, and Kelsey, I don't know that you're going to see anybody else get 75 passes at tight end.
Yeah. See, that's the thing. The drop-off there is massive, and it's not like tight end is a great contributor to your, fantasy offense anyways. So,
well, if you want one of those guys, you better you're going to have to try to get them.
Yeah.
Because once the first one goes, I think you're just going to see a run.
I think there's a couple other guys that are there that I'll wait on because there's a couple of guys that we haven't even talked about at tight end, and I don't think that they're going to be drafted early. So the more we talk about this, I'm just looking at tight end targets from last year. Delaney Walker led the league in tight end targets.
Yeah. Yep. So I had him last year. I was just thinking about him. Delaney Walker's going to be in that conversation.
Another guy that I'll wait and take late is Kobe Fleener.
That's a guy you could get later, definitely.
Right. So 9th, 10th round, I'm sitting there with no tight end. I'm fine with taking a guy like that because that means the rest of my team is pretty well formed. And, if I have Julio Jones, 2 middle-of-the-road running backs, or maybe even one decent top 10 running back and then a middle-of-the-road guy, and then a top 25 receiver, I'm feeling pretty good about that. And then I'll roll with Marcus Mariota if I have to at quarterback, or Blake Bortles.
They're going to be there. I'm telling you, you're going to be able to wait very long, and if you want Blake Bortles, you'll get him. He's going to be there. I'm telling you, that isn't a knock on him. It's just
I know, but so many people are going to be so embarrassed when folks like me draft Bortles in the 7th round and just stomp.
7th round is a good value. That's a good time to draft him.
I know.
I'll tell you what, Oz, if I win my league and I end up getting him in the 6th, 7th round, I'm going to be thanking you all over Facebook.
Yeah,
I really think you could get him in the 7th round. That's a great time to draft him. I wouldn't wait too much beyond that because he might be gone because he threw 35 touchdowns. I think you could get him in the late 6th, early 7th round. No problem.
That's going to be
great. But I think Phillip Rivers is going to be there in the 6th round. I think Eli Manning is going to be there in the late 5th, early 6th. There's a lot of quarterbacks, and you're not going to draft more than one quarterback in most leagues until you're talking very much later. So however many guys you have in your league, 10 or 12, that's only the top 10 or 12. There's a whole other 10 guys that you can get.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You'll be fine.
Yep.
Totally wait on your quarterback.
What do you guys think of Chris Ivory? Since the Jaguars' offense is going to be so potent with Blake Bortles at the helm, and you got Robinson and Hearns.
Yeah.
I think like Chris Ivory is a RB3. I don't think he's any better than that.
RB3 is right where I'd have him.
Yep. And I think 9th, 10th round for a third running back, I would probably scoop him up.
I was looking at the stats beforehand, and I was actually surprised at some of Ivory's stats. I mean, he was 5th in yardage last year. He was ninth.
He was also the primary back, though.
Yeah, and he was ninth.
He's not going to be the primary back. He's going to be splitting time with
T.J.
Yeldon.
Right. Yeah, I think
I just don't know where he's going to.
Platoon.
I just don't know how many carries he's going to get.
No, he could scalp some touchdowns. He only had 7 last year, so it's definitely like number 3 sort of territory, I think. But yeah, I was looking at that. I was like, yeah, what about Ivory? But then, you consider that, Jacksonville's going to do it, running back by committee. So
I would be comfortable taking him late.
Yeah, late, yeah.
I think he'll fall. I would definitely target him. I think it would be wise to target him in the 8th or 9th round, and all of a sudden you might have it. He might be a quality running back 3 or even running back 4, depending on how many backs fall to you.
Mm-hmm.
And,
right.
If he plays really good, then what if Yeldon gets hurt? All of a sudden he's the primary back.
Mm-hmm.
He's not a terrible back to pick, but I wouldn't be thinking, anything above the 6th round.
Right. Well, you got Doug Martin we didn't talk about. Is Sims going to take carries away from him? Yeah. There's a lot of question marks at running back. I mean, the guys are the guys, the main ones we touched on. But then there's a huge drop-off with, certain scenarios. I don't like the scenario in San Diego. Is Melvin Gordon going to be the guy? Is he not? Is Danny Woodhead going to be the guy? I don't think he is a type that can be the guy. I think he's a third down
utility
back.
Guy.
Yeah. Another guy that I like in the 4th, 5th, 6th round is Dion Lewis.
Yes.
I know we haven't talked a ton about him either, and he had a lot of targets last year as a running back too. So in a PPR league, I'm thinking, man, maybe I'll go with a LaShawn McCoy and a Matt Forte and then take Dion Lewis as my third back, and I might go running back.
Mm-hmm. It's not a bad strategy.
If I get Julio in the first round or A.J. Green or whoever, Hopkins, and then I go running back, I'm fine with having 3 guys like that catch the ball in the backfield. They're going to be consistent in what they get you. Dion Lewis was a huge find for some people last year on the waiver wire because it was supposed to be, LeGarrette Blount and, whoever else was there. I forget the other guy's name.
James White.
Yeah, James White to start the year. And then, Shane Vereen left and went to the Giants. So New England always seems to find these, third down backs that just step up and end up being like Danny Woodhead or Kevin Falk or Shane Vereen.
Right.
I mean, they're notoriously fantasy sleepers. And I think Dion Lewis is a guy that will be high on people's list this year as far as, that second or third running back, and depending on how much you like him.
Totally agree. I would not be uncomfortable taking Dion Lewis, especially if you can get him as your third guy in a row. I think that's very realistic. You could go stud receiver first round, and then this running back, and then a lot of people probably won't do that, and all of a sudden you're going to be sitting there with 3 really good running backs. And then other teams are going to be like, oh, well, yeah, I guess I got to take Rashad Jennings as my primary running back. I've seen that happen where, the drop-off goes and, people don't think of it in terms of, oh, I guess I got to have my running back. People want to go get the stud quarterback and the stud receiver. And, it does happen. But if you could load up on running backs and then all of a sudden, an injury happens and your depth is good and everybody else is struggling through their injuries, you can pull off a trade and really, really capitalize on having that depth at running back.
Absolutely. The guy that actually went 13-1 in our league last year. He had Tom Brady, wow. He had Gronk, he had Allen Robinson and Latavius Murray, and he had Des Bryant as well, I believe.
Wow.
No, I'm sorry. He traded for Calvin Johnson. He traded Latavius Murray away for Calvin Johnson. He had Calvin Johnson and Allen Robinson were his receivers.
Wow.
And, yeah.
That's fantasy football.
He had, Allen Robinson was a great pick. Nobody saw that coming. And then Latavius Murray was a steal. Ended up being a good pick for him and actually I think worked out really well in trade bait for him. But I just look back at his team, and I'm like, how in the heck did he get that team? So it's fantasy football. Someone every year steps up and is the Julius Thomas and the
right.
Latavius Murray and
Julius Thomas.
Yeah,
that's
he was
dead.
What's that?
Go ahead.
He was a sleeper that someone picked the year that he blew up, and like I didn't research obviously very well, but now that I'm doing this show, it's forced me to kind of take an extra look at things, and I'm glad. I really am.
Yeah, I had Julius Thomas with my 13th round pick that year. But I'm like, well, Peyton Manning's going to throw somewhere. I'm going to pick his tight end as late as I possibly can, but I didn't know he was going to be that good.
Wow. So here's the starting lineup from that guy for the championship game. Tom Brady, Devontae Freeman, Doug Martin, Calvin Johnson, Gronk, and then he had the Cleveland kicker, Coons, the Lions, and then Reuben Randall was his second receiver because Allen Robinson must have been Oh, no, he traded Allen Robinson and Latavius Murray for Calvin, and he had C.J. Anderson and Odell Beckham and Julian Edelman, too.
Oh, my gosh.
Guy was just stacked.
Yeah,
Everyone traded him, though. I mean, that's how he ended up, like, one trade and then another trade, and next thing you know, it's like, man, he had all these guys that he sold high and basically won out on every single deal he made. So
yeah, I mean, having Devontae Freeman in that year, and then having Allen Robinson for as long as he did probably didn't hurt. And those are just very good value picks. And that's what you got to do. That's really what it comes down to. It's how you're drafting in the mid rounds. A lot of times is going to determine how well you do, because anybody can draft in the first 2 or 3, but a lot of those guys do get hurt. Your mid-round drafting has to be good.
I think 6 through 10 is huge. I think that, and even 11 through 15 or 16, depending on how many rounds you have, even that is your depth and your trade bait maybe, or some guys will draft and take flyers on like I'm planning to this year on a Josh Gordon.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, a lot of people are doing that because he's such a talent. If he's anything, somebody immediately activated him in our dynasty league. He's like, oh, they've been sitting on him for 2 years, just hoping he'd come back, and now he's back.
Yep. Yeah.
Well, I think we've covered most everything we wanted to cover today. Does anybody have any final thoughts?
No, I'm good. I can't wait till next week, and I hope we keep this ball rolling. I really like where the show is, and I think that people are getting something out of it if they're listening. So,
absolutely, I got some feedback this week from a few people that listen to it, and they're definitely they said they're learning a little bit. They're changing up their strategy. They like some of the research that we're doing. So we'll just keep on it, and we'll be looking to do more. Just round evaluation, looking for sleepers. We're going to try to point out as many value guides as we can, and definitely, you got to go get running backs. I think if you're listening, the last couple of shows, I think we're all getting to that point where we're preaching running back heavy, and I think God is definitely on board with this now too. What do you think?
Oh, sure. No, I mean, it all makes sense. And sure. The drop-off is huge. I mean, that's really, for me, that's the big thing.
Aren't you glad we talked you out of drafting Blake Bortles in the first round, Oz?
See, that never came up. That never came up at all. You guys are going to be so sorry when I, land him in the 7th round, and he ends up being, the 3rd or 4th best fantasy quarterback.
No. See, you're misunderstanding. We think you can get him in the 7th round.
Yeah.
We were worried you were going to take him in the 3rd round because you thought so highly of him.
I'm not worried I'm going to take him in the third round. Why are you?
Well, when we do this Grueling Truth Fantasy Football League, I'm taking him in the 5th just so you can't have him.
Yeah, just to spite me. Yeah.
It's your value pick of the 5th.
And then right after that, I'm taking that Farrell guy from the Rams.
Right.
Oh, Farrell Cooper.
At number 6. Farrell Cooper.
And this will be after I make my 4 draft picks for Todd Gurley trade, too.
So you'll have Todd Gurley, but
Todd
Cooper
Gurley
and
Jimmy Garoppolo
Bortles
starting quarterback, I think.
Awesome.
Well, be sure, everybody, to tune into all the rest of our shows coming up. We got a baseball show. We got a boxing show on Monday. We got CFL. And also we'll be doing more NFL Legends, fantasy football, and we'll be getting into some of our team coverage. So be sure to listen to all the shows. Go out on the website, drooling-truth.net. Check out all of our articles. We're doing a lot of NFL preview stuff, a lot of fantasy articles, CFL articles, and also keeping up on baseball and boxing. So if you're into all that, be sure to check out our website. Also check us out on Facebook, Twitter, @DrillingTruth. And also, you can listen to all of our shows on Spreaker, Stitcher, Google Play, iTunes, iHeart, wherever there's podcasts, you can find us. So for Aaron Zepnick, Davis, I'm Matt Andruscavage. You've been listening to the Fantasy Football Weekly Show on The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.